just tell the audience, tell the folks, what are you working on most this offseason? Obviously, I know you're balancing baseball as well, but what are you working on most to kind of get ready so when that time comes, you can show people what you're made of?
I think I kind of said this earlier, but I think that my receiving game as a tight end has been kind of underrated only because there hasn't been a lot of flashes of it. Last year, obviously, got some good catches, got some good yards, touchdowns, stuff like that. But I think this year it's going to be even more. It's going to show even more. And I think that people are really going to be surprised at what I can do when the balls gets in my hands. Like you said, the yards after contact, the yak yards. So I think that, or yards after catch, not yards after contact, but yards after catch. I think that's going to be a really, side of my game that no one's really truly seen before, so I think I'm really excited for that. And I'm really been working on my receiving aspect of the game. I've been training for it, so I think that's going to really show out this next year for coaches.
All right, y'all, what's going on today? I'm happy to be joined by Jude Cascone, class of 2026 from Walton High School, two-sport athlete. Jude, tell the folks a little bit about yourself. Where you from? Kind of talk about your upbringing a little bit. What made you fall in love with sports?
Okay, so I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, kind of in the metro area. I grew up playing football at NYO. Shout out to NYO. Growing up, I was more of a baseball guy than football, to be honest. And when I started playing, my dad was convinced me. He's like, "No, you really like football. You really like football." So then I started playing football, and after every practice I did well, he would actually go to CVS, buy me a pack of Pokemon cards. So that was kind of convincing me to play the sport. But then the more and more I played, I actually fell in love with the sport. And now, it's the best sport ever. It's my favorite sport. And I just love it so much. But I played at NYO growing up. And then when I got older, I started playing for my school. And then eventually ended up here at Walton. And I love it. Love it.
No doubt about it. And then just talk a little bit about, obviously, baseball, kind of just upbringing, background. Were you playing on some travel teams? Kind of how was that for you? And I know you play outfield, I believe, third base as well. Talk about the position and what you have to kind of do to be successful at that.
Yeah, so growing up, I played rec ball. Buckhead baseball, another shout out. But I played rec ball growing up with all my buddies. And then I went to the ATL Lightning, which is a travel program kind of out of that same area. And then after that, I moved to the Georgia Jackets. I've been with them ever since. Love Coach Otterson over there. And I've been playing outfield is my main spot. I love gunning people from the outfield, so that's kind of my favorite thing to do there. But then I also play third base. And I think a big part of being successful with that is just, which also translates to football and other sports, is the hand-eye coordination. And I think that's a big part of baseball. I think that's one of the really successful parts you need to have in order to be good in that sport.
No doubt about it. Now, talk to us a little about this season. You guys are off to another great start, 13-6, 7-2 in your region. So talk a little bit about how this season's been going for Walton and how much you're excited. Only 2 weeks left until the regular season's over. So talk a little about the season.
It's been really great so far. We've had some tough losses, and they come down to the wire, really. And there's just been small miscues, really, that have just led us to right behind winning the games. But I think that where the direction we're heading as a team and conversations we've had and practices that we're doing, everything is going in the right direction. And I think everything's become better than 13-6. I think we're going to go make a deep run into the playoffs. But our guys are all dialed in. We're really excited to be back after spring break, and we're going to have a great rest of the season.
No doubt. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys were just built, I think, a new complex, if I'm correct. Talk about that kind of coming in the season, kind of having, a new aura around it, having a new stadium, and that kind of excitement to have.
It's awesome. The new field is great. It's really nice, really top of the line. Have a great indoor facility as well. We get a lot of work in there, so when it rains and stuff, we still are getting work in. We're not getting worse, getting better every day. And also what I really love about it is right next to the school, and there's a bridge from the school to the field, actually. So a lot of people actually started to show up to the games, and almost every home game, it's been packed out. So people love to come watch us, and we love when they come. So it's a great environment. I'm really happy that they built this awesome facility.
No doubt about it. Now, talk to me a little bit about your coaches with baseball. Let's start with kind of your position coach. What has he kind of meant to you in terms of your growth in the sport, and having you play at a high level?
So Coach Jillian's our outfield coach for Walton. He's great. We do fundamental stuff every day. Every day we do the same small fundamental work, and then we also do bigger fundamental work like tracking the ball, reading it off the barrel, and we always try to do some sort of live reads as well. We'll do hitting on the field, so the outfielders work on getting their reads, getting their steps, throwing to bases and stuff like that. But he's really worked on the fundamentals and keeping it, because for outfield it's really easy to sit out there and just get cold and not be paying attention. But he makes sure that you're always doing the little things right, and that when it comes time to make a play, you're always going to be there to make a play.
No doubt. And then last one, I'll at least talk about your head coach, what he's kind of meant to you. Same thing in terms of just growth, getting to where you are today.
Well, obviously, he's been around Walton forever. I mean, he's been there for a long time, and he's had great success, had 2 state championships. I mean, he knows what he's doing, that even with this new team, new field, he's done a great job in making sure that we're heading in the right direction. We're always getting better every day and making sure that our expectations are met and raising the bar every day.
No doubt. Now, I got a prop for you. Actually,
all right.
I know you are a big baseball guy. I'm sure we're going to get into our football as well. But I bought this prop. Here's a baseball. Just
awesome.
Tell me, what does that mean to you, just the baseball, the sport, and what kind of impact has it just had on you?
I think it's had a really big impact on kind of like the mental side of sports, because baseball, as you know, is probably a slower sport. People say, oh, they get bored, but honestly, that's my favorite part about it, because if you're not locked in on this ball and if you're not really like honed in on every pitch, you can make a mistake so easily. So I think it really pays a tribute to the mental side of sports and how you always have to be locked in. So that's kind of what this means to me.
No doubt. Now I got to ask you a fun question about baseball.
Okay.
What is the best game you've ever had in your career? Whether I can go back to youth, I go back to rec ball. What's the best game that you remember you've had in your career?
Best game I've had in my career, like me personally in my career.
Personally, yes, sir.
That's a hard one. I'd say my personal best game is I think it was 14U, 13U. I was playing for Lightning. I was actually playing against my team I was playing for now. That's how I actually met the coach. I was playing against Georgia Jackets, and we were playing with them, and they were supposed to beat us, but I remember I pitched that game. I did pretty well. I think I had like a triple, a double, or something like that, and I hit pretty well. Ended up getting MVP for the tournament, and I remember meeting up with the coach, and that eventually I played for him. But I remember I had some buddies on the other team, and it was just a great game, and ended up it was a great win. So
nice.
Kind of one that comes to mind.
And last but not least, what has kind of just been, obviously that was a great moment. What's been your favorite just memory, whether that's being with your teammates now, being able to go on the road and pick up a big win? What's been kind of your favorite memory in sport baseball?
I'd say last year. Last year we had a really good win against Houston County when I was playing for Marist, and we went down there. Everyone said they were a really good team, but everyone was saying they were a favorite to beat us. Ended up splitting the series, and I remember we actually lost to them previous earlier in the season, and when we were getting on the bus, Coach Strickland said, "We'll be back here, and they won't get the best of us." And we ended up splitting the series, ended up losing the last game, and they went on going to state. But I just remember that defining moment. We were just kind of sitting there getting on the buses in the regular season. He was like, "We'll be back here," and they're not seeing the last of us. And we went back there, split the series, and yeah, that was a really good defining moment last year, I'd say.
Gotcha, man. Well, now we're going to transition to a little bit about football now.
Sure, for sure.
Kind of talked about how your dad kind of had an impact on you, him wanting to see you play, him kind of, rewarding you a little bit too. So when you were starting to play, what position did you start with when you played football?
So all through my rec ball experience at NYO, I was too big. They wouldn't put me at any like skill positions because they were like, "You're too big, you can't be running over these little kids." So I actually played line my whole entire life. Growing up through rec ball, but then we had an all-star team at the end of the year every year. It's called Red Devils, and on the Red Devils I played tight end. So that's kind of where I got introduced to the role of tight end. And then once I got to middle school and high school, that's when I started getting more introduced into tight end. So I'm very thankful that I played line because it translated well to tight end, because there's different types of tight ends. But I think growing up playing line attributed to both sides, because now I know how to block. I know the fundamentals of blocking. And then also now that I'm learning the receiving part, I've been doing that ever since I left rec ball and I started playing more tight end. But I think the playing line when I was really young really helped for like my fundamentals as tight end now.
Not about it. And before we talk about last season, which was an incredible year for Walton, 14-1, I want to go back to freshman year. Kind of how was that for you, kind of coming in, being young? Did you play on the freshman team? If you did, what position did you play? So
freshman year, I came in and I was at Marist, and I played a lot of defense. I played defensive end. I played actually a good amount that year. One of the interior linemen got hurt, so they actually put me in nose guard for a couple of games, which is pretty interesting. But then after that, I moved back out to DN. I played a good amount at DN. I think I played almost every game, and I got a lot of good reps, and I'm actually really thankful for that because it got me good reps early on, and getting the exposure as a freshman was awesome. And so now that I kind of had the experience early, and I got more like playing time under my belt, it really helped in the long run.
No doubt. And then for you, if you can kind of elaborate more, are there big distinctions, big differences between playing at that nose guard and then defensive end? Do you have to like use different techniques? Talk about that.
Yeah, so for nose guard, it's more of dirty work, I would say. The way we played it is we be in a 4-point stance, and depending on the line, it's either you're just shooting out into the knees or you're just kind of holding your spot and then shedding blocks and trying to see where the ball is going, but you're making sure you're holding your gaps. Defensive end is more, I would say, you're more of like a playmaker because you're coming off the edge against tackles and you're trying to get to the quarterback. Obviously, you still have responsibilities based off the opposing offense, and some games you might be squeezing, some games you might be just trying to get the quarterback, some games you might be in the flats covering. So I think with DN it's more versatile, especially at Walton with the kind of role that we have. It's really versatile where you could be down the line or you could be out in the flats in coverage. So I think that I prefer playing defensive end because you get to do a lot more stuff, so it's more fun to me.
Yeah.
I get to do a lot more roles, so that's kind of the difference for us.
Got you. Now, speaking of Walton, I mean, we'll talk about defense side of the offense. Now, your tape pops out. I did a film breakdown on you, and I mean, even on the defensive side of the ball, you're coming, off very fast. You got a quick first step, and you're living in the backfield. Just talk about that part of your game and how you've been able just to master it and be really effective on that side of the ball.
Well, kind of going back to how I played the freshman year. The freshman year, I just tried to learn as much as I could. So I would watch the older guys in front of me. Luke Harpering was a good defensive end that we had at Marist when I was there, and they had a lot of really good knowledge. And kind of that whole year, I was just soaking up, trying to see as much as I can learn. And then also some of my other guys that I played with before, they had a lot of good knowledge too. So kind of I've just been learning, and then trying to incorporate it in my game as well. So yeah, getting your first good step and really getting your hands on them. Using my speed to advantage because I feel like I'm going to be faster than a lot of linemen.
Yes.
Or I know I'm going to be faster than a lot of linemen. So just kind of using that to my advantage and trying to get back there as soon as quick as possible, while also being like physical with your hands and stuff like that.
No doubt. Now let's go to offense. Obviously, you play kind of tight end, H-back. Now I know last year you were Hunter Till, and I want to ask you kind of what were some things you learned under him? What was it like playing under him, and kind of get into it? Because you know what? I actually interviewed Hunter, and he brought up your name a lot. And he said how you're the next one up. Just talk about that relationship with him.
Man, Hunter's a great guy. I mean, I love being behind Hunter. Me and him had a great time all season. And I'd say one thing that people may not know about him is he's just an awesome leader. I mean, everybody can put labels on him and whatever they want, but he was the best tight end in the state. Like, he had a tenacious attitude, always made good blocks. Always made awesome and exciting like plays after the catch, and he always had great plays. But I think his most impactful thing he left on me was just his leadership, because people could put whatever label they want on him, but he was like every day he'd be out there, he'd be screaming, he'd be getting everyone hyped. He would be just like the guy, like the hype guy, and he would always be picking people up, but also getting on people when they needed people to like get on them. But he was just an awesome leader, and he really showed me kind of different side of tight end that I've never seen before. He really put a lot of good information in my head and just taught me a lot while he was there with me.
No doubt. And then one aspect of your game that also stands out, obviously I think this year you'll be more of a receiving tight end, but you can block very, very well. You're blocking the ends, you're coming over. I've seen a couple plays, you're rotating over if it's a run play. Talk about that being able, because a lot of guys don't want to do that, Jude. A lot of guys do not want to be blocking. They want to be a receiving tight end. They want to be Caleb Bowden. They want to be Hunter Till, right? They don't want to do that. So talk about being able to accept, okay, this is my role, but I'm going to be very effective, very efficient with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of honestly goes back to like my upbringing. I played line my whole life, so I grew up blocking, and I think that I've never really been afraid to block anyone. I mean, I like blocking because you can really get to like your nose in the dirt. You can like just push people around. So I think that blocking is also a really key aspect to your game, because anybody can, like, there's receivers. If you want to go be a receiving tight end, I mean, I bet there's going to be some receiver that probably can outplay you, because that's all they do is they just catch balls. Right. So I think that you need to have a good balance between, if you're playing tight end and H-back, you need to have a good balance between your blocking and receiving skills. And so that's what I've kind of tried to master, is to be good on the receiving side, but then also good on the blocking side, because you need to have both to play the position. And I think that's why it's one of the hardest positions in football, because you need to know run plays, you need to know passing plays, you need both sides to be effective and a good tight end.
And if you had to give advice to a tight end coming up, let's say he's back in your shoes, he's a freshman, he's coming in, what would you tell him? Would you say like, hey, like you got to be balanced? What would you say to be a great blocking tight end as well?
You can't be afraid. I think that's one thing I would say, because I know that sometimes, especially if you're a younger guy, blocking like older guys, if you're on varsity, or just really getting like kind of experience like that, you need to not be afraid, because if you're afraid, you're not going to make good blocks. If you play afraid, you're not going to play loose and like effective. So I would say just don't be afraid and just keep the energy up. Like if you just make a bad play and you're just like, oh, I'm not, like, this isn't good, like I'm just going to give up. You just got to keep going and really just put as much effort as you can as possible. And I remember, like, even when I was coming out for like for some of my first practices at Walton, I was going against Wendell Gregory, and it was kind of a awakening experience. And I remember my first time hitting, I was like, whoa, that's a big dude. And so I think you just can't give up, and you just got to keep going at it. And even your failures, you're learning something, you're getting better even through your failures. So I think that just keep going at it and just don't give up.
100%. Now let's talk about the receiving part. I know you had big time catches, big time games. You beat the ball out against Carrollton in a playoff game. Just talk about that. I mean, I think what separates you is your yak yardage after the catch.
Well, kind of my outlook on my receiving game is that I did a lot of blocking for Walton last year, and I was a really big part of the run game, but then also the receiving part, I got flashes of it. I got the ball a couple times from Jeremy and stuff like that. But I think that's going to be a big part of our offense this year, and I'm really excited for what's coming in the new offense with our new OC coming in. And I think that it's almost maybe an underrated side of my game, because I didn't see a lot. It wasn't shown, or it was shown last year, but not as much as probably will this year. Be more precedent this year, so I think that's going to be a big part of my game that's going to shock people, is that they didn't know kind of the receiving tight end that I am, and I think it's going to be a great year for that.
Now, do you feel any added pressure knowing that you're going to be a big cornerstone of this offense next year, and they're going to lean on you a lot offensively?
Well, obviously there's pressure, but then, I mean, after last year, I feel completely confident, because I feel like how far we went, the leadership that I saw, and kind of what I know is expected in this program and what I know is expected of these coaches. I know exactly what they need, what they want, and so obviously there's going to be some sort of pressure, but I'm also really confident in the guys that we have, and kind of like also the leadership roles in this team along with myself. But I'm really excited for this next year. I'm not worried about it, and I feel like it's going to be a great year.
No doubt. Now, speaking of last year, a great run, 14-1. You guys made it all the way to the state championship.
Yep.
I think one of the best years in Walton history, man. I mean, you guys were such a joy to watch. Seen you guys a couple times through 7-on-7 camps and things like that. But just recap kind of last year. What were some life lessons you learned after kind of that loss, and that you can peel away and you can take into this year?
Well, I think anyone can agree that was on the team one of the best like cornerstone games that we had, and what really I think turned our season around almost was that North Cobb game we played in, because all year we were blowing teams out, and people were writing articles on us. They're giving us rankings. They're giving us all this like media, and Coach Bruner would sit down with us on our meetings on Saturday mornings and be like, y'all can't be satisfied. You can't look at that stuff, because if you look at that stuff, you're just going to become complacent, and someone's going to come in and be like, well, they're just going to wipe you off the board. So he always put that in our heads, and I remember that North Cobb game, they were beating us, and we came in to the locker room, and we were like, we got to turn this up, guys. And we went out there, ended up beating them, and it was a really good win. And we came back from behind, and I remember we got back in their gym where our locker room was, and we started turning up. And I remember, like, after that moment, I was like, all right, this is our team, this is us. And after that point on, we were locked in. And I mean, that was just such a really good defining moment last year, and that was probably my favorite game from last year. I bet anyone would agree with that too, because I mean, everyone felt the exact same way.
No, 100%. I mean, you guys were down big, and then next thing you know, you guys get a big splash play, and then you guys come all the way back, get your rival that you haven't beaten in a while, and you're finally able to beat them, and then win the region championship too. Yeah,
right,
no doubt. Now, tell me a little about just going real quick to last year. Tell me about the connection you had with kind of Jeremy. I mean, obviously, he, all forces go. He's the leader on the offense. I mean, he's slinging the football, doesn't turn it over a lot. Just a great complimentary leader. Just tell me about playing with him.
I mean, I think the best part of his game is that he's so smart. I mean, he knew that offense inside out. He knew exactly what to do on every play, and he was a really smart quarterback. And so I think that reflected on the players that he played around, because with him being so smart with the offense, he knew what to tell players, kind of like how to coach them also. Like, he would be at some of our, like when we do like receiving, he would know what to tell us, like kind of like when to make breaks, stuff like that. And he was a great leader. He might not have been the most vocal leader, but when he needed to be, he was there. And he really led that offense, and he was a really big piece of Walton last year.
No doubt. Now, tell me about Coach Bruner. Obviously, you talked about how he was on Saturdays, telling you guys not to get places. I think he's a phenomenal coach, one of the best in the state. But You get to see him every day, right?
Yep.
You get to go through practice with him, spring practice. Tell me just a little bit about him.
Man, I love Coach Brenner. I think the best part about him is he's just like a great leader. He's an awesome leader. He loves to be with us all the time. He tells us he does this job, which I fully believe, because he loves us. I mean, every day we're in that weight room and he's warming us up. He's getting us hype. We're doing lifts together. It's really exciting. And in the morning, he's like got the most energy on the field. I try to outbeat him sometimes. I try to get more energy than him, but it's hard to beat him. I mean, he just loves doing it. He loves the players. I mean, from top to bottom, whether it's a starter since freshman year or if it's just a new guy that joined senior year, he loves everyone the exact same. And he makes sure we know that, because if you love the players and the coaches and the people you're playing for, it's a great way to play football. And I mean, he's my favorite coach I've ever played with. He's really taught me a lot, even with 1 year being a Walton.
No doubt. Now, we're going to go back real quick last year. I mean, obviously you played in the Georgia Elite Classic. I think you've a couple of years now. What would you tell kids that get invited to that want to go, kind of how that experience is?
For the Georgia Elite Classic? Yeah, so Georgia Elite Classic is great. Rusty Manziel runs that. He does a really good job with it. I've loved going to know him at the Georgia Elite Classic. And then also Chad Simmons is up there sometimes. So I get to see him. So it's a really good exposure at the Georgia Elite Classic. And I'm very thankful for being invited there. I have a great time every year. It's good work. There's a lot of good players that have come through there, and there's a lot of good players I play with, and I get to play with up there. So it's a great time. You're staying with all the guys, and after practice, we all went and hang out. We go to like Buffalo Wild Wings or something like that. Coaches are also always really fun. So it's just a really good experience, and also to learn. I mean, you always got to be learning football. So to learn more and to meet new people and kind of build connections with recruiters, with analysts, with players, coaches, all that. So it was a really good time, and I enjoy doing it every year.
Now, I want to segue now into where we are at this moment, right? Spring break. Jude, how do you balance all this? Okay, like you guys going right back. You got a game tomorrow, and then spring practice is right around the corner for Walton football. So how do you balance all that, especially with the playoffs and baseball kind of coming up too?
Well, the way I balance it is we have speed training for football every morning. We start at 5:55. You got to be on line at 5:55 a.m. For football, Tuesdays, Thursdays. So I always do that. I'm always there, even because on game days the baseball guys don't usually do the speed training because we want to be fresh with the game that night. But I always try to be there. I always try to be there for the guys, and I always try to make sure my presence is known so they know that I'm going to be there for them, and they got to be there for me. So I always try to be there. And then also with the baseball, we have practice every day. Obviously, it's baseball season, so that's the main commitment at the moment. But I still try to get as much football work in as possible off days. Whenever we maybe just have practice, maybe go get some speed work, maybe go do some drills with do some catching on the weekends. I try to get some of the receivers. We'll do some catching work, and then also we work on blocking skills as well. We have some offensive work days. We'll do some blocking skills, stuff like that. So I play it off baseball, and whatever days I have open, I just fill with football. So that's kind of the way I'm doing it right now.
Got you. And then, if you can, how does the Walton practice schedule look? Are you guys going to play a spring game this year?
We are.
Okay. And then, who do you guys play this year? And then when does that spring practice actually kind of start?
Spring practice starts, I believe, April 29th. I believe is April 29th.
Okay. All right. Got you. Now, I got another prop.
All right.
Found out before we came on actually that you are a big Falcons fan and not less, so this is actually perfect. But I got another prop, guys, right here for him. It's actually a ball that I got when I went to Flower Lee Branch. I was a young kid, probably like 8, 9 years old. But all these signs like Michael Turner, some of the main key players, Matt Ryan. But I'm giving you this football, Jude.
Thank you.
Tell me this: what do you think, or what does that ball mean to you? Just in general, what does football mean to you when you look at it? If somebody had to ask you an answer on it.
It means a lot to me. I'll tell you that. It means a lot to me. I think what this means to me is football is the greatest team sport ever created. There's so many moving parts in football, and there's so many different skill sets you need to be successful. So I think that this teaches you a lot about life also, is that you really got to be disciplined, and you have to do your job. You got to make sure that you're making sure others around you are doing their job, and that you always got to be disciplined. You can never, because football, you fail a lot in football. There's a lot that can go wrong in football, but there's also that can go right in football, and you always learn from your mistakes. You never make mistakes twice. That's kind of the way I look at it. So this football means a lot to me, and the fact that it teaches you life lessons along with the football lessons that comes with it. And the Falcons. I love the Falcons, so you can't ever go wrong with the Falcons football.
No doubt. And I think you told me off air that you're very excited about the Kirk Cousins move as well.
Yep. I am very excited about that. I mean, he's an awesome quarterback. I mean, he's Kirk changed. I mean, he's got the whole thing going for him. And I think Atlanta's really excited for him to come and see what he can do with this Falcons team, because like there have been really good years that we've had, especially that Patriots year when they came back and blew us out. That was a really good year for us. I remember going to one of their games and just like seeing that team. That was awesome. And this team can definitely turn around and get back on the winning streak, but I think that Kirk Cousins will definitely be a big factor in turning it around.
No doubt. Now, guys, I did definitely want to interview Jude because I wanted to bring him on for just the exposure as well. Just I really think he's a phenomenal talent. And I want to ask you, Jude, I think you could be one of those guys that ends up blowing up even after, the season's over, even during the season, with what you're going to bring to the table. Now, just tell the audience, tell the folks, what are you working on most this offseason? Obviously, I know you're balancing baseball as well, but what are you working on most to kind of get ready so when that time comes, you can show people what you're made of?
I think I kind of said this earlier, but I think that my receiving game as a tight end has been kind of underrated, only because there hasn't been a lot of flashes of it. Last year, obviously, got some good catches, got some good yards, touchdowns, stuff like that. But I think this year it's going to be even more. It's going to show even more, and I think that people are really going to be surprised at what I can do when the balls gets in my hands. Like you said, the yards after contact, the yak yards. So I think that, or yards after catch, not yards after contact, but yards after catch. I think that's going to be a really side of my game that no one's really truly seen before, so I think I'm really excited for that. And I'm really been working on my receiving aspect of the game. I've been training for it, so I think that's going to really show out this next year for coaches.
Now, if you had to say, go back to the receiving part, what do you think are some good drills, just for kids that watch and that look up to you? What are some drills you can work on to kind of harness in on that and kind of perfect it so that you can get it to a high level?
Right. Drills. Every time I ever do receiving work or any sort of route running work, I always do ball eye coordination. So I use tennis balls. That's what I use, and I'll do like catching the ball over my head, or I'll get a partner and I'll like toss balls back and forth, and kind of just tracking the ball and really because you can do whatever routes you want, but if you're dropping the ball, it doesn't matter. So I always do receiving like with tennis balls and kind of controlling my eyes and really tracking the ball, and then also I always count just simple route. Obviously, you do like the big routes and you do all like the fancy stuff, but I always work on like the simple things. I try to master the simple things, and I always do like footwork drills and all like small things that people might say are pointless, but I mean in the long run it's gonna be what's gonna really help you, and whatever you have mastered, it's always what it boils down to. So I always try to work on the simple things and really build off of it.
Got you. Now, if you had to say, I'm not sure if you played it last year, just correct me if I'm wrong, but 707 is a big thing. Mm-hmm. What's kind of your stance on it? I know Walton has participated in several. They'll go to, I believe, the Georgia Tech 707, yep. Corky Kell. I know they went to Hoover, Alabama last year and played in the national one. Just talk about your stance on 707. How much does it help you being a tight end playing in those kind of games?
Yeah, for sure. And I did play in those. I played in the Tech one and the Hoover one that we went and won, actually. We won that one we played Carrollton, and I think it's really good for you, but then there's also parts of it that might not be as good. But I think the best part about it is that as a tight end, you're blocking half the time, you're receiving half the time. Also, just kind of depends on the offense. So getting those receiving reps against like DBs and stuff like that, not just linebackers, I think that's really good as a tight end myself. And then also sometimes it's a little unrealistic because the quarterback can sit back there for some time. I know they have the timers, but sometimes it's unrealistic, but I'm a fan of it. I'm a really big fan of it because I get a lot of balls in my hands, see what I can do, and yeah.
Gotcha. Now, being in the sport of football, is there anybody you model your game after that you try to take bits and pieces from that you like to watch YouTube highlights? Travis Kelce. Mm-hmm. Who do you like now? It could be college, it could be NFL. Who's some guys you model your game after?
I say my top guy is Brock Bowers. I mean, I have his jersey up there on the wall behind us, but I don't know if you see it. But I'm a big Brock Bowers guy. I mean, he's the best tight end in college football right now. He's going obviously to the draft, but I really try to model my game after Brock Bowers. Just kind of his route running, also his blocking ability. I mean, he can do it all. He also is really good with the ball in his hands. He knows how to make people miss. And then this might be kind of a shock, but I'm a huge fan of Marshawn Lynch. Growing up, I love the Seahawks. I don't know what it was about him, but I love the Seahawks. I love watching Marshawn Lynch and kind of his attitude when running with the ball. I mean, he was such an aggressive ball. When he had the ball in his hand, he was so aggressive. So I try to take that into my own game, and when I get the ball, not being afraid of kind of running through someone's face. That's what he always said, but run through someone's face and just kind of really try to be a really physical guy with the ball in your hands, because some people would like to dance around people, but I like to dance, but I also like running through people. So, being able to do that too is a big aspect of my game. Let's try to model after him.
No doubt. Now Brock Bowers, right? With Georgia, let's talk about Georgia just real quick. Obviously had a great year. Didn't get to where they wanted to be, but we know how good Georgia was. Just talk about him a little bit too. I mean, he had tightrope surgery, ended up having an injury, but he played through it and came back and try to help lead his team to victory. Kind of talk about what that means to you, seeing a guy that you look up to doing things like that, putting his body on the line to help his team.
I think that really attributes to his character, honestly. I mean, he got hurt and was back in 2 weeks. And I know for a fact that he was probably out there every day, kind of with his guys, making sure that they were staying where they needed, because I bet when he got hurt, everyone was kind of feeling down. This was like, oh, this is our guy and he's out. But I know he was probably there for his team, and kind of takes that into my game as well, because maybe if I'm out playing, again, I have baseball that day and I can't be out there doing the work, but I try to be there for my team. So I think that his leadership role in that team was huge, and then also his playmaking ability. I mean, when he gets the ball in his hands, he does all he can for the team. So I try to take that into my game as well.
No doubt. Now let's talk a little bit about just recruiting. I see you took 0 visits this month alone. I know it's been busy for you, but let's just talk about Georgia State, right? I know it was probably the most recent one. What was that like being there? Got a new head coach now, Dale McGee, former running backs coach for Georgia. What's that relationship been like building with him, and how much did you like being on campus?
I love being on campus there. I mean, my mom actually went to Georgia State, so it was kind of a full circle moment for us, and she came with me. She had a great time also with me, but I think with that new coaching staff, they turned that whole program around. I mean, Georgia State has had good talent there, and I think from where they are now with the new coaching staff, they're only going to build and get better. I think that program is going in the right direction. I think they're going to be really good in the coming years, and they're going to be a real contender for some of these bigger schools that maybe have not counted them in, but I think they're going to be really good in these next coming years.
No doubt. And how's that relationship been with just the tight end coach, wide receiver coach?
Good. It's a newer relationship. We're still building on it, but I talked to the coaches while I was there. Had some great conversations. We can go up camp there, obviously, and get to know them a little more. Come out to spring practice, come watch me play, get some live reps and stuff like that. But I think it's going to be a really good relationship between us.
Got you. Now let's talk about Georgia. Obviously, I know you feel very high about Georgia. I know that's big in this household, and you're a big fan of Brock Bowers. But talk about just that relationship, building it with the tight end coach, and then just experience overall when you want to visit.
I love Georgia. My family's been in Georgia. My sister's going to Georgia actually next year. And Georgia's, I love everything about it. Athens is a great place overall. Not just the football, but it's a great school. And the tight ends coach there, Coach Hartley, is just great. I mean, he loves his guys. And he always gets on them. He reminds me of Bruno, because he always gets on them, but he also knows when to be coaching or when to kind of show them love, get on them, be hard on them. But he's a great guy, and he's a big relationships guy, and he loves all of his guys that are there. So I love Coach Hartley. I love going there every time. I always get to work in whenever we go camp. It's a different camp in the fact that it's like a workout. Wow. I mean, you're doing stuff the whole time. You're doing like conditioning statements. You're sweating. You're running all over the place. So they really push your limits and see kind of how you are as an athlete, and see if you can handle one of the best programs in the country. And I love going there every time. I get good work in there every year at the camp. I just visited there recently. I saw Coach Hartley, saw them at the practice. They're looking really good so far. And Daniel Calhoun, who's on our team, is up there. I saw him throwing guys around, so that was good too. But I love Georgia. I love going up there every time I go.
No doubt. And if you had to say, obviously without revealing too much of the secrets, when you've been to different practices, right? What do you think separates this Georgia, which is not going into this major detail, but maybe their approach, their mentality when you go to practice and you see different campuses?
When I went, their ability to, like, they always like finish drills 100% or 110%. Like, even after the whistle's blown, like, if you're not running like through contact, if you're not making a burst after the whistle's blown, you're getting yelled at. I mean, they really try to push on the fact that you're at Georgia, you need to work hard, and you really need to push yourself and be better than the rest. You got to be different. Everyone can be working hard, but if you got to do the extra stuff to really, be the best program or the best team in the nation. So I think that's kind of something that they implement over there. They do a really good job. Chris Smart does a really good job doing that, and he's always getting on guys, but he does it because he loves them, and he really wants to push his team, and so they can be the best in the country.
Gotcha. And last one on recruiting, just talk a little about, I know you visited Georgia Tech. Kind of talk about that coaching staff, them turning around kind of their program and building that relationship with their.
I love Georgia Tech too. I mean, I've been there the day after, last week. I went to Georgia Tech, and man, they look solid. I mean, because last year they had a tough loss to Georgia, and I was talking to one of the coaches there, and he was like, our guys came in, they were mad. They were really mad. They really thought they could have won that game, and they put up a good fight. And so this year, they're even hungrier than they were last year, and they're really looking to come out this year and, turning heads and really building a new name for themselves, especially with the new hires. I think they're going in a great direction as well. And honestly, I think they're going to be really good in these next coming years.
No doubt. And then, kind of you started off offensive line. How cool is that to kind of see, a former offensive line coach that now is a head coach, Brent Key, kind of being the leader of that team and essentially kind of knowing, where you kind of started from and offensive line and kind of transition to tight end?
I mean, honestly, I think it all starts with the line. I mean, if you don't have a good line, you can't do anything. If you can't block, you can't do anything. So I think with him now being the coach there, it's going to really set a new kind of baseline for this program, and I think that with the new kind of line, more not line based, but more of a line presence as your head coach, I think that's going to be really good for the program, and I think they're going to be heading in a great direction. So
no doubt. And last thing,
yep.
I heard that they got a whole bunch of new facilities. Were you able to check them out, and kind of what's your thoughts?
I did. I get to see some of the new facilities. They're still building, obviously in Bobby Dodd Stadium. They're still expanding onto it, but I got to see some of the new facilities. It looks great. I mean, everything's state of the art. They look awesome. Their indoor is awesome. It's really big. Got an outdoor field. They got it all there. I mean, but they're still building, kind of on Bobby Dodd Stadium. So
okay,
yeah.
Guys. Now let's talk about a couple more. I'll let you get out of here.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, kind of, going into. We talked a little bit about this summer. Talked a little about what you got in store, but what are some goals you have for 2024 you want to kind of accomplish on the football field?
On the football field, I really want people to see kind of the athlete I am. In the past few years, being a freshman, I was obviously kind of playing behind some guys, still learning. Coming into a new program, I was kind of behind some guys, still learning. But I want people to see kind of the real athlete that I am and the impact I can make on the football field. I really want coaches to be able to see kind of who I am as a person, also off the field, and kind of the leadership that I can bring to a team, because I try to pride myself in being a good leader and raising other people around me, and I hope the guys around me feel the same way. They told me they do, but I know I get on them sometimes too, kind of making sure they're doing the right things. But I'm really excited for this year because people are going to see kind of the actual athlete that I am and kind of the real person that I am as well.
And speaking of athlete, like you said, you play two sports. So has that always been a natural thing for you, or do you have to kind of work a little bit to get to the athlete that you are?
I mean, growing up, I played as much sports as I could. I played football, baseball, basketball my whole life until once I started making varsity freshman year, and they kind of overlapped too much to where I was just going to be missing so much of all the sports. I just was missing out. So then I just really focused on football and baseball because I love both of them as much equally, or probably football a little more, but I love baseball a lot. But yeah, I think it's always just kind of come naturally. Just growing up, my dad put me in as much sports as possible, always kept me active. So I think that's just kind of in me to be always doing something, because when I'm not doing something, I just feel bad. I just want to be playing some sort of sport. So I love football and baseball because football is more of a winter sport, and then when you get into baseball, it goes into summer, more spring sports. So both of them keep me active all the time. So yeah.
Now speaking of kind of just barometer, just set marks you want to be. I know you said you wanted to be an athlete. Is there any a touchdown goal you have? Is there a receiving yards goal you have? Is it all state? What are some just things you want to hit there?
I definitely want to be all state tight end. That's kind of the top goal. But then I'd say for touchdowns, last year I believe I had 4 or 5, and I want to be in the double digits this year for touchdowns. I want to be double digits, and then with receiving yards, I want to be over 800-900 yards. Which I think is definitely possible, because that's what Hunter did last year. He was a big part of the game, and so I think this year with me now being the head tight end there, I think it's going to be really it's going to be a feasible goal I have.
No doubt. Now I want to ask you. Obviously, a lot of people are going to probably be sleeping on the wall going into this year with just all the young talent you have. Now I'm putting you on the spotlight. Tell me about some guys on the team that you got besides yourself that we should look out for in 2024.
Caden Gilstrap, that's my guy. That's kind of the first thing that comes to my mind on the offensive side. He's a great quarterback. He runs really well, and I'd say Jeremy was more. He ran great. He always escapes out of the pocket, makes some plays. But I think Caden he's a great arm. Pitches for Walton as well. He's on the baseball team with me. He's got a great arm. He runs really well, so he can make really explosive plays. So I'm excited for what me and Caden can do this year. Also on the offensive side, Max. He's my guy. He's a receiver, Master Craney. He makes really good plays, really fast, good wide receiver. And then kind of on the defensive side, I'd say Jake Thorner. Probably people have heard his name before. He's a really funny guy. Played with Ashton last year. I think you learned a lot from Ashton. I think everyone learned a lot from Ashton. Ashton was a guy. But Jake, I think he's going to be a big part of this team next year, too, on the defensive side, because now with him being the head linebacker kind of in that group, he's going to really set the tone for this team. And then also Noah Lavallee, it's going to be them two running the show on defense out of the linebacker role. So I think them two are really going to keep this train rolling, and we're only on the rise.
No doubt. Now you guys are, I believe, opening the season Cork and Kell Classic against Brookwood, correct? Kind of what kind of catches your eye about the matchup? I know obviously you're going to do more planning and stuff like that, but just off the bat, what kind of catches your eye?
Well, I remember last year going into the game, they played a pretty solid line, and I remember that was kind of the thing that they established. They have a good running game. So I think that early on we're going to have to be able to stop the running game and kind of limit their explosive plays, but then also kind of take advantage when we get the ball in our hands. So I think that's going to be the big key for us next year. And obviously we're going to look back at the film of this year, see what we did well, see what we did bad. So I'm glad we played them last year and got the results we wanted to last year, and hopefully repeat it this year.
No doubt. Now I'm asking fun stuff to end this off.
All right.
I'm going to ask you, if you were not playing football and baseball, what would you, Cascone, be doing?
As a sport?
As a sport, hobby, career, whatever.
As a sport, I'd probably be playing golf. Love golf. Okay. It's kind of similar in the baseball where it's slower play and it's a mental sport, but then also you get to swing a club. So I love golf. I love playing golf with my brother and my dad, and we go out all the time. And then also fishing, big fishing guy.
Okay.
I go fishing, getting into hunting as well. So kind of being outdoors, and I really enjoy fishing. So I do fishing quite often, and me and my brother, we go fishing all the time. We'll catch some big ones, maybe not sometimes. It just kind of depends on the day. But I love fishing and golf. I would say those kind of things I do in my off time, and if I wasn't playing those sports, what would I be doing?
Okay. What's the biggest one you caught?
Biggest one I caught? Oof. I remember I was fishing the Keys one time. Caught, it was a 30-something inch. I think it was like 37-inch mahi. Wow. I remember I was pretty young. I was probably 13, 12 years old. I was with my uncle, and we were out in the Keys and we were fishing, and we hooked this huge mahi after being out there for like 3 hours in the sun. It was brutal, and then we caught it. And then I think he caught one. Maybe my dad caught one. We caught like 3 or something. But I reeled one in. I got it, and I was so happy. We went back and cooked up. He ate it. It tasted awesome. But I remember that was probably the biggest fish I've ever caught.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. All right. Now we'll talk a little bit about, obviously, what do you just think about, just as a fan? I'm pretty sure you're a fan of UGA. What do you think the perspectives of the team is this year? Do you think they can make a run to college football play?
Oh, obviously, they can make a run. And also with the new expansion of the more teams being allowed in the playoffs, I think that's going to be awesome because there's going to be more games. There's going to be a lot more opportunities for teams to really show out. And I think some of the teams, even like last year was a really controversial year of who should be let in.
Yeah.
So I think this year with the extended playoffs and more teams being allowed in, I think it's going to really offer some upsets, but then also for some teams that may have not been able to give a chance or been given a chance like in past years are now going to be able to kind of show what they got. So I'm really excited for this next year. In Georgia, obviously, they're the best team in the nation. They have been recently in the recent years, and so I think that they're just really going to prove themselves even after this year, after being taken out of the playoffs and after the one loss to Alabama. I think that they really got kind of screwed over this year. So I think that they're really going to come back hungrier than ever, and I think they're really going to make a statement and show that why they should have been in the playoffs last year.
No doubt. And then in your eyes, you watch a lot of sports. What do you think is the best? This is just an opinion question. What do you think is the best sports moment ever?
Best sports moment ever?
Yeah, if you had to say.
Well, this is a hard one. Well, I'll say my best favorite moment ever that I've seen personally on myself was the Braves when they won the World Series. I remember I was at one of the World Series games, and it was the game that I'm pretty sure it was Rosario and Dansby hit back-to-back home runs. And I was with my buddies, and we were watching the game, and Rosario hit one, the Dansby hit one, everyone was going crazy, and I think that was like the moment when everyone was like, okay, I think the Braves got it this year. And so that was probably my favorite moment, especially being there. That was awesome. Acuna is my favorite Braves player. I mean, he's sick. I mean, he makes plays all the time. So I think that was my favorite sports moment.
Yeah, that was nothing like it. I know Atlanta struggled for a long time in those big games, and then finally able to come through and win a World Series. And they talented again this year.